to Sundays with Brother Barry Scott. Glad to be speaking this morning. And of course you can watch these messages on Facebook, YouTube. This morning I'm actually concluding what is the last sermon in this series on chapter 11, but I'm not in chapter 11. I'm picking up 3 verses in chapter 12. Now, a couple of Sundays ago, you may have noticed if you were following, I actually skipped a portion, the section on Moses. That's because when it was time to record messages, I couldn't find my notes. I hope here in the 3 weeks since I recorded that first message and had to skip over Moses, I will have recovered my notes and we'll have him. So it'll be out of place, but I do want to, if I can find my notes, don't know if I can recreate them, but we'll come back to that. But today, run the race of faith. And we are going over into the 12th chapter because I really think it is honestly the conclusion to chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. A few places can compare to the excitement of a large packed arena or stadium. Listen, that's the reason people will drive from West Tennessee to Knoxville. I had my first experience about 3 years ago. Actually, for the first time in my life, was in the Tennessee Ball Stadium. It was a homecoming game. The stadium was packed, and yes, I see why people do that. The Indianapolis Speedway can seat 250,000 spectators to see the Indianapolis 500. The largest sheer stadium, we're told, is in North Korea, which will seat 150,000 people. Boy, that is a crowd. When it comes to athletics, though, the greatest spectacle is the Olympics. And of course, the Olympics, I think by the time I give this message, may still be in process, may have been concluded, but we are in the summer of the Olympics. Now, people in Bible times loved athletics. And Paul was especially fond of comparing Christianity to various kinds of athletic functions, but particularly to a race. Interesting, in all the archaeological work, almost any place that they have that, you're going to find a stadium. Was part of what took place in that town. In the book of Hebrews, we see a great parallel. The largest stadium is not on this earth, it's spiritual. Heaven's grandstands are packed with God's saints, alumni, lettermen, gold medalists of the faith, a mighty cloud bank of witnesses filling the horizon. Here is pictured the race of faith that every generation of believers is called to run by faith. Listen, if you are a Christian, you are in this race. So I want to talk about the greatest event to enter, the great encouragement to run, the greatest problem to avoid, the greatest example to follow. There's a great dedication to finish, and there's a great prize to win. I'll go over each of those points. First, there is a great event we can enter. Therefore, that starts chapter 12 and carries us over from chapter 11 is a tremendous affirmation. You see, we can join the honor roll in chapter 11. There is a race to be run. It is literally a race for life, eternal life. Make sure you're registered to run, and you do that by faith. Because you see, if you miss salvation, you're really running nowhere. Once started, this race, take it seriously. It's not a sprint. It's more like a marathon. There's a lengthy obstacle course. Now, the word race in the Greek language actually comes from the word agony. The hard work of running in a race. In other words, it's not a stroll around the mall. It's not the proverbial walk in the park. It calls for training, discipline, and commitment. Only faith will provide the needed stamina and energy in this race of faith. But there's great encouragement to run. Verse 1 of chapter 12, we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. In the New York Marathon, I think they have about 30,000 people that run. That's a lot of people, but the entire route of the New York Marathon is lined by countless thousands upon thousands of encouraging spectators. All the heroes of the faith in chapter 11 encourage us to run. Their faith is a living witness to encourage us. Now, they don't judge or criticize, but they encourage us by their example. They even encourage us by their failures and frailties. Because if they could run and finish, then there's hope for us. Those examples in chapter 11 are not perfect, not sinless, but they had faith to believe God, and by grace through faith, they made it. And they're testifying to you and I. Noah is telling us every drunk you can stop. Abraham is telling us that every fearful liar can tell the truth. Jacob is telling us that every deceiver can quit cutting shady deals and live above board. Samson is telling you that God's power can win over your passion. David is telling you that you can overcome the worst things a human being could possibly do. Each one of them is crying out, don't despair. We made a decision to live by faith. We found a way up and out. Listen to the witnesses. What are their lives, their testimony speaking to you? Keep on loving each other. Keep on ministering to others. Keep on praying. Keep wanting more of God. Keep on witnessing to your family. Stay faithful to the Church of Jesus Christ. Keep on serving. Keep on giving. How many of you have witnesses in the clouded grandstands who are shouting to you, finish well? They are also heroes of the faith. If you and I are going to finish well, we got to listen up. We need to listen to the witness and testimony of those who have gone before us. We need to hear their shouts of victory and heed their witness to finish well. If they can do it, we can do it. Now, probably one of the toughest physical races in the world takes place in Alaska. It's the Iditarod dog sled race. Just a grueling race that takes place over many days. But interestingly, there have been at least 2 women that have won that race, but one of those 2 women actually dominated the Iditarod dog sled race for almost a decade. Someone said, how can you win the race so many times when you're up against men who are much stronger, can seemingly endure more than you? She wasn't a big woman at all. This is what she said. She said, I just remembered that others have done it before me, so I can do it too. The heroes of the faith found their strength in God. And so can you. And so can I. The grandstand of faith is cheering us on. You can make it. Run, fight, don't give up. God is with you. Consider us. We made it. So can you. Now, there is, though, a great problem to avoid. Weights and sins. The course is full of obstacles, pitfalls, and even booby traps. The greatest problem of a runner is weight. When it comes to running, less is better. That's why you see somebody that's going to run a race. I mean, they strip down almost to the point that you're embarrassed to look at them. Nothing but a pair of shorts and shoes. There was a world-class runner a number of years ago who was expected to finish first in a major race. He was ranked number 1 in the world, but he didn't. He lost the race. And someone said, what do you think the problem was? He said, I know exactly what the problem was today. My problem is I haven't been training as hard as I should. I went into this race being 3 pounds overweight. Now, I tell you what, a lot of us would not mind only being 3 pounds overweight. That doesn't seem like much. Well, it is when you're trying to run this kind of race. When the army of Alexander the Great was advancing through Persia, at one point it looked like his troops were about to be defeated. And the reason was they had taken so much plunder from their previous campaigns that they had become weighted down. They had so many things that they were trying to carry that they were losing their effectiveness in combat. Alexander realized this. He commanded that all the spoils be put in a big heap, and he set them on fire. His men complained bitterly, but they soon came to see the wisdom of Alexander's order. Someone wrote it was as if wings had been given to them. They walked lightly again, and victory was assured. You see, a weight is anything and everything that hinders our prayers, our spiritual life. J. William Chapman said, "My life is governed by this rule. Anything that dims my vision of Christ or takes away my taste for Bible study or cramps my prayer life or makes Christian work difficult is wrong for me, and I must, as a Christian, turn away from it." Now, along with weights, the other problem that is identified is sin. And it's a particular kind of sin. Persistent sin, entangling sin, or a description that has been around a long time, a besetting sin. Now, a besetting sin, that's the one that gets you every time. The one that you easily commit, causes you the least concern, the sin most excused and justified instead of repentance. I read a wonderful little writing called The Cat. Here's how it goes. I came home into the driveway. I saw all 4 of my kids huddled in the garage. They ran to greet me. The smallest dragged behind the rest. She was carrying something, a cat. The cat was obviously a stray. "We found him. Can we keep him, please?" They all talked at once. "We don't need a cat," I reasoned. "Please, please, please. What'd your mother say?" I asked, hoping she'd already nixed the idea. She said, "It was up to you." The smallest smiled pleadingly. "We'll see," I said over my shoulder as I headed into the house. After a kiss, my wife asked, "Did you see the cat?" We concluded it'd have to go, but we dreaded the impending disappointment and tears. To make a lot of whining short, I said it would have to go to the pound in the morning, but they could feed it tonight. Big mistake. By morning, it had a box in the garage and a name, Max, and there beside the washing machine was a 5-pound bag of cat chow. Such is life as a parent. A few days later, as I came home, there in the middle of my driveway lay the cat, napping in the sun. I could have run over it. It would have been an accident, of course, but I didn't. That was months ago. we discovered that Max should have been named Maxina or something. She had 6 kittens. Even I have come to grudgingly regard her with some fondness. That's how a family gets a cat. Listen, sin is like that cat. Be nice to it, feed it, and before you know it, it's moved in, it's part of the family. That's why Paul warned us in Ephesians 4:27, give not place to the devil. The greatest problem in the race of faith is unbelief. Unbelief is the sin that ties the laces of our spiritual running shoes together. Doubt slows us down. Faith gives us a second wind. In running the race of faith, we have a great example to follow. Verse 2. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Listen, when it comes to this race of faith, Jesus is both the coach and at the same time, he's the greatest runner. In a race, understand where you look is all important. Our focus should always be on following Jesus. Our focus should always be looking to Christ. The writer says, let's fix our eyes on Jesus. That word first is a prefix that means to look away from all else. We are to look at him by looking away from all else. We're never to fix our eyes on what hinders us, the sin that besets us, the course, the other runners, or even the cloud of witnesses. We're to look away from all of them towards him. Florence Chadwick was a famous female swimmer. She intended to swim 21 miles from Catalina Island to the California coast. She was in the water for over 15 hours. There was a heavy fog that day when she was only a half a mile to the shore. Though her team tried to tell her and begged her, she quit. She said, I'm not excusing myself, but if I could have seen the shore, I might have made it. And sometime after that, she indeed, on a better weather day, did manage to swim that 21 miles. She said, this time I had a picture of the coast in my mind and I focused on that. Blondin, the great tightrope artist, famous for going across Niagara Falls, always on the far side, he had a silver star. And Blondin said, I never took my eyes, I never looked at my feet, I never looked at the water below. I focused on that silver star as I walked the tightrope. My father had 3 little boys. The youngest was always losing a race to his brothers. His dad knew that this would discourage the little boy. It had snowed, and he said to the little boy, would you like to win this race? And the little boy said, yes. He said, I'm going to tell you a secret. This is what I want you to do. He told the secret. He told the boys, okay, I'm going to give the signal. I'm going to the far end of the field. I want all of you to run to me. The one whose footsteps are the straightest in the snow is going to be the winner. The race started. The oldest little boy kept looking at his feet to see if his steps were straight. The second little brother kept looking at his other 2 brothers to see how they were doing and where he was. The third little boy ran the race his dad told him to. He never took his eyes off his father on the other side of the field. And when the race was over, sure enough, that little boy was the winner. His footsteps were by far the straightest through the snow. He kept his eye on the goal ahead of him. Listen, focus on Jesus because he is the author, the perfecter. Author means pioneer. Jesus is the great faith pioneer, greater than all of chapter 11's heroes. Perfecter, perfection is to carry through to completion. The same meaning as it is finished. what Jesus said on the cross. Listen, it's good to glance at the saints, but it's imperative we focus on Jesus. There was great dedication to finish. Sometimes we refer to that as perseverance. In the 1968 Summer Olympics, in the marathon, there was a runner from Tanzania who finished 1 hour after the winner due to a leg injury he had sustained early in the race. His leg was bleeding. Someone said, and he was obviously in a great deal of pain as he finished the race. Someone said, why did you keep running? You knew the marathon was over? This is what he said. My country did not send me 7,000 miles to start the race. They sent me 7,000 miles to finish it. Listen, in the Christian life, it's not how we start or how many times we fall, but how we finish. Many start well, but they give up. They fall by the wayside. I think of one of Dolly Parton's favorite sayings that she said had governed her life. She said, I never stopped trying, and I never tried stopping. That's great advice for a Christian. We need to finish strong. Jesus didn't do for us what he did just so we could begin or make a little progress, but that so by faith we could run hard, we could finish strong. There is a great prize to win. Listen, we're not running like a hot hamster on a wheel, just running around going nowhere. This is the only race you can run where you have the assurance you've already won. We run because we see the reward by faith. Our victory is assured because Christ was victorious. He endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of God. It says in verse 2. Hence, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Romans 8:37. Isaac Watts, the great hymn writer, penned this verse. I asked them whence the victory came. They with united breath ascribe their conquest to the Lamb, their triumph to his death. Our reward is the same as Jesus, the welcome of the Father. I close with this illustration. It's been a number of years since I saw this silly little movie. The name of it, Little Giants. It's about Pee-wee football. You know, it used every emotional gimmick in the book. You got a little ragtag boys. You got a coach that's somewhat kind of suspect on his abilities. They start off, none of them really know much, but they work hard. They make progress. Finally, they're playing in the big game. Now, there's one of the little boys. He's very discouraged. More than anything else, he wants his father to come watch him play. But his father is a very busy businessman. He's not seen a game all season. This has disappointed the little boy. Comes near the end of the game. They have a chance to win. The coach happens to look across the field, and they're coming on into the area beyond the touchdown that his team needs to get to. All of a sudden he sees this little boy's father. He's had a change of heart. He's come to see his son play. The coach has an inspiration. He says, give the ball to that little boy. That little boy said, I hadn't ran the ball all season. I've not been in a play. Don't give the ball to me. Coach said, yes, give it to him. They give the ball to that little boy. He just knows he's about to be tackled. All of a sudden, he looks and he sees his father. And he takes off like a rocket. He runs around 2 or 3 that try to tackle him. He runs right over 2 or 3 boys bigger than him, all the way across the field and joyfully into his father's arms. Keep running the race of faith. by encouraging others who have finished the race or stalled out. Keep running. Run hard. You'll finish. And by faith, we're going to see one standing at the goal line. Maybe he claps with nail-scarred hands, and he holds out his arms to embrace us in the Father's love, and together we will enjoy the victory forever. Keep running the race, and may God add His blessings to His word. Amen.